This is Sylvia from the Lifelong Health and Fitness Conversations podcast, inviting you to tune in for more conversations promoting functional fitness, mental health, wealth, and overall wellness. Join me as I interview experts and practitioners to enrich your life holistically. Listen anywhere you get your podcasts.
Hey everyone, I thought I would do an episode. It's been a while because I've been sick and it's been dealing with a lot, working two jobs basically, and trying to recover. I'm still having some kind of lingering effects. I think it was just back-to-back colds, flus. I even reluctantly went to the doctor. Got tested for a bunch of stuff. I don't believe it's COVID because I've had COVID before and it was didn't feel like this. And it wasn't strep, or they tested for, I think, the common flu as well too. So I don't think it's that either. But yeah, I wanted to do one just because I have a lot of different ideas on topics and stuff like that. And this is something that I've been thinking about and kind of that I've been moving towards, at least when it comes to diet and nutrition. Because starting out, I actually, when I was much younger, and I still try to adhere to it as much as possible. Before I started developing a lot of chronic kind of health problems when I was about 21, I was very paleo and stuff like that. I still think it's a good kind of starting out point, or like template or place to start out at. I have nothing really against vegan or vegetarian diets. I just think that it's kind of difficult to get a lot of the nutrients, and unless you're doing like organic and basically like fruits and veggies with like maybe eggs and dairy and maybe like honey and stuff like that, and eating a fair amount of supplements and stuff like that. I do think there's some benefits to it. You know, you get a lot more fiber and a lot of the benefits you get from, you know, fruits and vegetables, antioxidants, polyphenols and stuff like that. But I think I don't know. I get people do it for ethical and, you know, moral reasons because they don't want to you know, consume animal protein or meat. I'm not sure really if it's really much more beneficial or sustainable, you know, for the environment, because all those foods still need to be farmed and stuff like that and all that. But anyways, I actually did write a article, I believe an article, maybe blog post, about kind of a paleo template diet. Maybe intuitively even back then thinking about this. And I've tried kind of a variety of diet. I haven't, early on I was probably pretty strict with paleo and stuff like that. Not so much anymore. I do think on the lower end of, you know, lower carbs is also better as well too. But it really depends on, you know, it depends on what you're going through, what you're healing from, what you're recovering from, and kind of like body types, because I think some people respond better to certain things, and it changes over time as well too. So unfortunately, this is something that you kind of need to figure out for yourself. It also depends on if you're home, if you're traveling, if you kind of, the food culture you grew up with, what you kind of like, what you kind of don't like, and stuff like that, because you really need to kind of develop your own diet and stuff like that. But I do think if you're recovering from chronic illness and stuff like that, you know, doing a paleo or keto, carnivore kind of, especially autoimmune approach can help, because some fruits and vegetables can cause an inflammatory response. I do think generally things like, it depends on, starches can be difficult for some people, especially the fibers if you're dealing with gut issues. You know, grains I don't think generally are a good idea. Gluten kind of being, anything with gluten kind of being the worst. Even ones that are gluten free, I'm a bit iffy on. And even corn, because you get some cross reactivity, especially if you're really sensitive. But also things like, you know, going like on a low FODMAPs diet or a GAPS diet and stuff like that. That is generally better, I think, for even a specific carbohydrate diet if you're dealing with like SIBO or gut issues. That's not to say that you can introduce those foods later, but I do think there's pros and cons to different diets. You know, GAPS can be kind of high in histamine. If you have histamine issues, that could be an issue. But as far as, you know, paleo is really like, or primal or whatever is really like a good start and really good template, and to kind of go from there and stuff like that. I do think, I think a lot of norms or diet norms or nutritional norms that we've been taught since we've been younger, that salt is bad for you, that fat is bad for you, that, I don't think that's necessarily the case. I don't think fat really is all that bad. If you are getting the right fats, if they're organic, if they're, generally, I want to say stuff like grass-fed butter, coconut oil, and olive oil are really generally the best three that I usually try and cook with or use often. Eggs can also be a good source of good fats, and they have amino acids and choline and stuff like that, and protein. I do think if you do look up Alex Hormozi, which I do watch some, he has some stuff on diet and fitness. I don't agree with everything he says about that and other stuff, but I do think having a lot of protein is really beneficial, because when you break down kind of the macronutrients and what they kind of provide for the body, from my understanding, what I've experienced is protein is really good for, building, renewing, repairing tissues and stuff like that. It's really important. It helps fill you up. That along with fat, and you really need a lot of it, especially if you're doing a lot of hardcore, especially weight training. But you generally want to have I'd say about a gram per pound of body weight, really. Which, that can be a lot, or if you convert it to kilograms of pounds, which should be simple, easy. Fat, I think, is really, it's helpful for not only hormonal health, but also it can help with like kind of digestion and detox as well too, because your gallbladder needs to produce bile, and it needs enough fat and stuff to do that. And carbs are a bit, they're a bit of a toss-up, because I really think kind of the timing of when you have them and the kind are better. There's generally the ones that are kind of low glycemic, like some fruit like berries, are probably better. The worst ones probably being more starches and grains and stuff like that, and even legumes, because those can cause issues for people as well too. But yeah, later on in the day is generally better when you have better time to eat carbs, because it converts to serotonin and melatonin, and that will help with sleep and stuff like that. I do think generally if you're trying to lose weight, kind of keeping carbs low is beneficial. That means I don't think you have to keep it low, like super low all the time, or like no carb. I do think it's important to introduce them, like vary it throughout the day, because it kind of helps with metabolic flexibility and stuff like that. But you really want to think in when you eat food and eat out and stuff like that. I want to say, paleo wise or whatever, you want to adhere to it probably as much as you can, 89%, because I think if you over adhere to it, you can kind of develop, what is it? It's almost like a new up and coming like kind of food. It's orthorexia, which I've kind of, I don't know if I have, but it's kind of where you're just really picky and you kind of undereat, and you always looking at and reading labels and stuff like that. And I do think it's good to like kind of 80 to 90% keep like paleo or whatever diet you're on, but then have some flexibility for, when you're going out, when you're on vacation, when you're at a party or something like that, which I think can actually be somewhat helpful and stuff like that. And it can also, I know there's a lot of fairly, I would say, influencers and authors and entrepreneurs that really try and adhere as much as possible, 100%. But you want to think of foods in terms of like what the nutrient density and how much nutrients are in there as well too, because there are some foods, if you look up superfoods, like cacao, shilajit, I think that's how you say it, acai, different superfoods and stuff like that. They do tend to have a lot more nutrients. Even things like organ meats have a lot of nutrients in them. Juicing, I think, is a good way, not only because it adds some kind of beneficial fiber, but also you get a lot of enzymes, you get a lot of nutrition, and you can work around kind of I would say the nutrient deficiencies that you get through a modern diet, even if you are on organic food, because it's really hard with modern farming practices to get certain things, magnesium and other things, that it's really hard to get the right amount through diet. And also like kind of like digestibility, because you have to have enough stomach acid and enzymes to digest a lot of this stuff, especially for protein, but for different carbs and stuff. And if you do decide to eat stuff that's like kind of inflammatory, like grains that have gluten in them, grains and stuff like that, you can mitigate that by soaking or fermenting. Fermenting, I think there's some other ways that you can probably do it, but also taking enzymes and stuff like that to kind of mitigate that. And you can also take even gut binders as well. But yeah, I think overall, people just really need to kind of find out what really works for your body, because it depends on what you're really going through. It's something that you have to go through a process of, and try and lower foods or limit as much as possible foods that have lectins in them, that your body has to go through a lot to digest, that your body, gluten and stuff, especially if you're dealing with leaky gut and other stuff, you don't really want to pile that on top. It's occasionally, I think, and rarely is kind of fine. It's probably fine, but you kind of need to develop kind of your own diet and what works for you. And you can reintroduce some kind of foods, like say if you're really restrictive with vegetables and fruits and stuff like that, and do research on the FODMAPs and paleo and GAPS diet, because there are tons of articles, books, resources and stuff like that. And even keto or carnivore, I haven't really gone carnivore or anything like that. I do think there are some benefits because it eliminates a lot of plants and stuff like that, which can cause issues with people. But I think it's just something that it's kind of a discovery process. You have to kind of try out these different kind of diets, see what kind of works for you, what doesn't work for you. Take what kind of works for you, especially for your health, and then go from there and kind of develop your own kind of diet, because I think the best diet for people is not something that you can really find or research or read online. It's something you really have to come up with kind of yourself and figure out what works for you, and then maybe over time you can change and adjust it depending on how active you are, how healed your digestives. I would say gut health, especially because diet is a really big influencer and impact on gut health. And I think as you heal it more, you can introduce and you can be more lenient with your diet and stuff like that. But as you are starting out, especially healing your gut, you need to be a lot more selective and restrictive and stuff like that. Anyways, I hope this helps. I don't know really many people that I know. There's a few people that kind of I've been developing and thinking about this idea that really embrace this idea. But again, this is diet and nutrition. There are foods I think even protein wise and other stuff like that. If you have trouble getting enough protein, I think you can supplement with essential amino acids and protein powder. I would try and vary it up. A simple way to get a lot of protein that I do is I mix, like in a shaker cup, about equal portions of about milk. Typically I try to get the the Fairlife or lactose free milk, like good quality, or raw milk. Raw dairy is really good for you actually as well too. Some kefir, some milk kefir, some egg whites, and then some protein powder. And you can probably get, if you put it in 3 cups worth of shake, like one of those shaker bottles, for supplements and other stuff, you can probably get at least easily 50 or 60 grams of protein that way as well too. There's some easy ways, like sometimes I just get a bunch of hamburgers without a bun, and that's a easy way to get a lot of protein. Or you can I want to say, what was it, Panda Express? You can basically get 3 entrees and then get super greens, and you can probably get easily probably about, I want to say 100 grams of protein or so, like that, if you really do it right. And Chipotle and other stuff like that. I do think some are better, more suited for kind of paleo and keto, especially protein wise. And Korean barbecue, that's generally a good option. Some of them, are marinated and kind of sweet and stuff like that, and there is stuff that they add to it, but most of it is just meat, so it's a pretty good source of protein, especially after a workout or whatever, or just occasionally, because it's not cheap. But yeah, and trying much as possible to go organic and free range and stuff like that. You don't necessarily have to, because I know not everyone can afford that, afford grass-fed and other stuff like that. And especially vegetables, there's some vegetables and fruits that are especially better to get organic and stuff like that. Anyways, I hope this helps. Let me guys know what you think. If you guys, I do some coaching. I advertise at some on here, along with the affiliate products. If you feel like you need some help with your health, I'm still trying to figure out kind of my niche, or kind of what I want to focus on. But it tends to be more, especially with what I'm dealing with, kind of more men's health, hormonal, sleep, detox, drainage, and gut health. But I'm open-minded, flexible with pricing and stuff like that, because I know people, especially if they're healing, they're often financially struggling as well too. That's at least what I've often come across. But anyways, hope everyone is well. Feel free to share, like, review, tell other people about it. This podcast, I'm going to try and be more proactive with my podcast and put out at least once a month. I may try and put out 2, just because being sick for a few weeks really threw me off, and I wasn't even able to get to my naturopath and do some other things as well too. But anyways, I'll see you all later.